Bobby Green versus Thiago Moises is a lightweight bout. Bobby Green has achieved a record of 27 wins, 10 losses, and 1 draw. Thiago Moises has achieved a record of 13 wins, 4 losses. Alright, so Bobby Green is currently 34 years old, Thiago Moises 25 and a half years old. So quite an age advantage there for Thiago Moises. On the other hand, Bobby Green is 5 foot 10 inches tall, has a 71-inch reach. He is 1 inch taller than Thiago Moises, as Thiago Moises is 5'9", and Bobby Green has a half-inch reach advantage, as he has a reach advantage of 71 inches. Thiago Moises is 70 and a half inches. Now the betting odds for this fight are favoring Bobby Green by quite a bit, as he is the minus 315 moderate favorite. Thiago Moises is the plus 260 moderate underdog. So a lot of people think Bobby Green's going to win this fight. Speaking of which, on the Tapology predictions, out of, I think, almost 3,000 different votes, 87% of the votes are going for Bobby Green by, basically all of them saying by decision. Some of them are saying by KO, maybe 100, 150 different votes are saying by KO. But the main majority of people are saying by unanimous decision. The people going Moises, 13% of the votes are going towards Moises, mainly by submission or decision. Not really anyone saying by KO. So people are thinking if Moises wins this fight, it's gonna be by submission. If Bobby Green wins this fight, they're saying it's gonna be by gonna be by unanimous decision. But yeah, let's get into the video. Alright, so Bobby Green ended up getting into the UFC after he got 4 straight wins inside of Strikeforce by second round arm triangle choke, third round rear naked choke, split decision, and unanimous decision, all that getting him a shot inside the UFC. He was actually supposed to fight Jorge Masvidal, but that fight ended up getting canceled, so he fought Jacob Volkmann in his UFC debut, got the win by third round rear naked choke submission, kept on winning with a first round kick KO over James Krause, a unanimous decision win over Pat Healy, and then a very close, very close split decision win over Josh Thompson. And then he was supposed to fight 4 different opponents in Abel Trujillo again, and then Jorge Masvidal again. But that fight got canceled. All of those 3 fights got canceled. And then he was actually supposed to fight Donald Cerrone, but that fight got canceled as well. So he actually ended up fighting Edson Barbosa after all of that big old mess, but ended up losing that fight by unanimous decision. After that loss to a very good fighter, he was actually supposed to fight Jorge Masvidal again, but that fight ended up getting canceled yet again. He was supposed to fight Ale Quinta. That fight got canceled, and then he ended up fighting Dustin Poirier instead, a very good fighter. But he ended up losing that fight by first round KO. Ended up losing his next fight after that as well by split decision to Rashid Magomedov. And then he ended up losing to Lando Venata by split decision. Sorry, it was a draw by split decision. Very close fight there, a draw with Lando Venata. Came back with a unanimous decision win over Eric Koch. But he ended up losing his next 2 fights to Drakkar Klose and Francisco Trinaldo, both by unanimous decision. And that was it for 2019. And then in 2020, back in June, he really picked things up with a unanimous decision win over Clay Guida. Nice. 2 months later, against Lando Venata, another unanimous decision win in a rematch. Nice. And then a unanimous decision win just a month later against Alan Patrick, where he absolutely dominated. And now he is fighting Thiago Moises at UFC Fight Night, Anderson Silva versus Uriah Hall. Alright, now let's take a look at his opponent, Thiago Moises. Alright, so Thiago Moises, as you guys know, he's that submission guy. If you look him up on Tapology, the first thing that you will see is literally a picture of him in a gi at a jiu-jitsu competition. He is a submission guy. That's his main game plan when he goes into things. Now, he started his career off very good with 2 straight wins, then a unanimous decision win, another win, a third round of triangle choke submission. But in his next fight at Atlas Fights 25, he ended up getting his first ever loss to Jason Knight. If you guys don't know who Jason Knight is, he is currently a top 120 featherweight fighter in the world. Pretty okay fighter, I have to say, but he did lose that fight by unanimous decision. ended up joining the RFA in his next fight after that, and got a second round rear naked choke submission win, followed by a second round armbar over Dave Castillo, and then a fifth round KO in a title fight at RFA 38 against Jamal Emmers. Ended up getting that win, and ended up getting the belt at RFA 38, as I previously stated. And then he ended up defending that belt one more time against Zach Freeman by unanimous decision. Ended up winning that fight. But that's when the RFA kind of changed into the LFA. And he ended up getting a main event spot against Robert Watley at LFA 17. And it was for the belt, but he ended up losing that fight by unanimous decision for the vacant LFA belt. Lost that fight, came back with a second round guillotine choke over Jeff Peterson in a main event as well, but that was not for the belt. All of that seemed to really impress Dana White, so he was actually invited onto Dana White's Contender Series, where he got a first round head kick KO. Yeah, you don't really know him going for head kick KOs in his fights, but he did get a first round head kick KO on Dana White's Contender Series, which got him inside the UFC, where he ended up fighting Beneil Dariush. But Beneil Dariush, he's a very good fighter, and he ended up losing that fight by unanimous decision. And after that loss, he ended up fighting Kurt Holobaugh, and ended up winning that fight by unanimous decision. But in his next fight after that, against Damir Ismagulov, ended up losing that fight by unanimous decision. And then he had a grappling bout against Wagner Rocha, and ended up losing that fight by unanimous decision. And then recently this year, I think in June or July or something like that, he ended up fighting Michael Johnson, who was once a top 5 lightweight in the world, was once a very good fighter, and he ended up winning that fight by second round ankle lock submission. And earlier this year, I think back in September, the beginning of September, he was actually supposed to fight Jalen Turner, but that fight kind of fell through. I don't know what really happened. I think it was because he got COVID. Thiago Moises actually got COVID right before his fight with Jalen Turner, so that fight got canceled. Jalen Turner fought, I think Brock Weaver won that fight by unanimous decision, or KO, I think. But Thiago Santos is going to fight Bobby Green at UFC Fight Night. Anderson Silva versus Uriah Hall. This fight's going to be very, very good. Bobby Green, I have a feeling, is going to try and do some ground game in this. Not really submission ground game, but more like TKO type ground game. He's going to go in there and try to get a TKO. But he's going to have to be careful, because Thiago Moises can definitely get a submission from the bottom and submit Bobby Green in this fight. But I don't think Thiago Moises is going to get that submission in this fight. I think Bobby Green is going to stick this out for the full 3 rounds. And I do think Bobby Green is going to win this fight by unanimous decision. Alright, if you agree, disagree, or have something to say, make sure you put in the question below, and I expect to every single one of those comments. Make sure to like, subscribe with notifications turned on, so you don't miss the absolute best MMA content out there. It's been fun, but I'm out of here.